My husband raised his right hand and swore to tell the truth. Then he pointed at me. She can't even walk to the mailbox, he told the judge. The boy needs a real parent. The courtroom was small. Wood panels, a flag in the corner, fluorescent light that made everyone look tired. His mother sat in the second row, holding a tissue she never used. I sat at the respondent's table with my cane hooked on the edge, hands folded, back straight. The Army taught me that. Observe, collect facts. Do not detonate. His lawyer stood up. Silver hair, soft voice, expensive pen. He fanned a stack of photographs like playing cards. Your Honor, these were taken 14 months ago. A wheelchair, a hospital bed, tubes. My face gray as ash. The judge looked at the photographs for a long time. I looked at them too. I remembered the woman in them. I was not her anymore. Nobody in that room seemed interested in that part. The respondent has been absent from her son's life for nearly 2 years, the lawyer said. Through no fault of her own, of course, but a 4-year-old does not read medical charts. He knows who makes his breakfast. Ross leaned into the microphone. New suit, fresh haircut. He had practiced this. I love my wife. I did. But Eli barely knows her now. She's a stranger with a cane. I'm all he has. I said nothing. I counted the knots in the wood paneling. 11. My lawyer's hand rested flat on the table between us. Steady, it said. Wait. Because what Ross did not know, what his own lawyer did not know, was who had been served a subpoena 6 days earlier. I had said his name out loud to no one but my attorney. At 9:41 that morning, the rear doors of the courtroom opened. I knew the footsteps before I turned. Measured, unhurried. The kind of walk that owns every room it enters. The lawyer with the silver hair stopped talking in the middle of a sentence. The bailiff straightened. Somewhere behind me, a pen stopped scratching. My husband's face went the color of the photographs. To understand who walked through those doors and what he carried in the folder under his arm, you have to go back 18 months, back to the night I fell out of the sky. October 11th, 2024, Fort Campbell, Kentucky. It was supposed to be a routine night training flight. 2 hours in a Black Hawk overground I knew by heart, 11 years in the Army, 5 of them flying, a 2-year-old at home who thought my flight helmet was a toy. 40 minutes in, the pedals went soft under my feet. I keyed the intercom before the caution light finished waking up. Controls are mushy? Stand by. Talk to me, Chief, my crew chief said. Tail rotor, we're not going home tonight. Every pilot trains for it. No pilot wants to meet it. The aircraft wanted to spin, and physics does not negotiate, so you do not negotiate either. You lower the nose. You trade altitude for control. You talk to your crew in the same voice you use to order coffee, because they will match your voice, and panic is the only thing on board heavier than fuel. Field, 2 o'clock, I said. We're landing there. It will be firm. Firm. The last professional word I said for 4 days. I fought it the whole way down and put us in a field instead of a tree line. Both of my crew walked away. I did not. I remember the sound. Metal deciding to become something else, then nothing. I woke up 4 days later at the Army Medical Center with a ceiling I did not recognize, and a man standing at the foot of my bed. Tall, gray at the temples, a white coat over an Army uniform. He read my chart the way pilots read weather, like it mattered. Chief Calloway, I'm Colonel Osei. I rebuilt your pelvis on Saturday night. 3 breaks, fractures in both legs, bruising on the spine. My mouth was sand. I got one question out. When can I fly? He looked at me for a moment. Something moved behind his eyes. Approval, maybe. You will walk again, he said. It will cost you a year. Then it costs a year. He nodded once like I had passed something and moved to the next bed. There were 5 operations in all. I learned the rhythm of that place. Surgery, swelling, waiting. The colonel came by on rounds every morning at 6:15, always 6:15, and read my numbers off the chart out loud like a weather report. Swelling's down, hardware's holding. You're boring me, Chief. Boring is what we want. You can build a life raft out of a sentence like that. I did. Ross came on the 19th of October. He stood where the colonel had stood, and he did not know what to do with his hands. He had brought a drawing Eli made, a helicopter with 5 wheels and a crayon sun. He taped it to the bed rail. You scared me, he said. I scared me too. He stayed 40 minutes. He checked his phone 9 times. I counted. Counting was all I could do lying down. His mother came the next day, Paulette, lavender perfume and worry. She held my hand and cried, and I ended up comforting her, which is a strange job for the person in the bed. "We'll take Eli," she said. "Just until you're better. Boys need routine." "Thank you," I said. I meant it. A drawing on a bed rail, a boy with a routine, a husband who scared easy. If you had asked me that week, I would have told you I was lucky. The first month, the machine of family seemed to work. Paulette mailed me photographs of Eli in the leaves, Eli in a pumpkin patch, Eli asleep in a dinosaur costume. Real photographs, printed at the drugstore, because Paulette does not trust telephones with memories. I taped them next to the crayon helicopter until the bed rail looked like a refrigerator door. The nurses called it my motor pool. Something was already going wrong. I just could not see it from a hospital bed. They moved me to the rehabilitation wing in November, a room with a window, a schedule taped to the door, and pain that arrived on time every morning. At first, Ross called every night, then every other night. Then my calls started going to voicemail, and his texts got shorter. "Work is crazy. Eli is fine. Mom says hi." In late November, I finally got him live on the phone. I could hear television and my son's laugh somewhere behind it, and the sound went through me like current. "Put him on, Ross, just for a minute." "He's in the bath." I can hear him laughing. A pause. The television got quieter, like a door had closed. "You'll see him when you're better," Ross said. "What do I even tell him? Mommy can't walk. He's 2, Jen. You tell him Mommy is getting stronger. Because I am." "Yeah," he said. "Okay." And then softer, to someone in the room, not to me, right before the line went dead. "It's her again. It's her. 11 letters." I lay awake most of that night, arranging them in different orders, trying to make them spell my marriage. He came on Christmas Eve, his second visit. I had a plastic tree the nurses put up and a gift for him in a bag I could not carry. He stood by the door with his coat on. 20 minutes, I said. You just got here." "Eli's waiting at Mom's, then bring him." "I haven't seen him since October, Ross. He's 2. He's going to forget my face." Ross looked at the floor, then at the window. Anywhere but the bed. "This isn't what I signed up for," he said. "The machines, the smell, you like this, I didn't sign up for this." 20 minutes. He never sat down. He never came back. I did not cry when the door closed. I lay there and did the thing the army trained into me at 19. I made a list of facts. Fact, my husband had visited twice in 3 months. Fact, my son was 40 minutes away and might as well have been overseas. Fact, I could not yet stand. The facts were bad. Facts usually are. But facts hold still and feelings do not, and a soldier learns to grab the thing that holds still. The nurses noticed the change before I did. Less television, more lists. One of them, an older one who had seen every kind of room this story can happen in, squeezed my foot through the blanket on her way out one night. "Whatever you're building in that notebook, honey," she said, "build it straight." In March, a man in a windbreaker walked into the rehab day room, asked if I was Jenna Calloway, and handed me an envelope. The day room had 8 people in it. A retired artilleryman named Mr. Tibbets, 80 years old, relearning chess after a stroke, looked up from his board and watched the man in the windbreaker leave. "Son of a gun didn't even take his hat off," he said. A divorce petition, and a motion about our son. I read it twice. My hands did not shake until the second page. There was a phrase in it, typed out in bold. "Guarded prognosis for independent ambulation." Word for word from my own medical chart, a chart my husband should never have seen. At the hearing, months later, his lawyer would wave those photographs and talk about the wheelchair. They only ever showed the wheelchair, never the parallel bars, never what the wheelchair turned into. That afternoon in the day room, I did not scream. I did not call him. I asked the nurse for a manila folder and I put the petition inside it, flat and neat. He had started a file on me, so I started one on him. The rehabilitation gym at the Army Medical Center smells like rubber and effort. 2 parallel bars, a mirror I refuse to look at, and a physical therapist built like a fire hydrant. Connie Delgado. 55 years old, forearms like rigging rope, 0 sympathy, and endless patience, which it turns out are the same thing, wearing different uniforms. "Up," she said every morning. "The bars don't come to you, Chief." We had a deal, Connie and me. She never asked about the divorce, and I never said the word can't. Once, in January, I broke my half of it. 8 steps assigned, and on the 6th, my hip folded, and I caught the bars and hung there, sweating, and said it. "I can't." Connie did not even look up from her clipboard. Finish the sentence! What? Can't yet. Finish the sentence, Chief. I finished the steps instead. She wrote something on the clipboard. Months later, at the hearing, I found out what she had been writing all along. Dates, numbers, distances. Connie Delgado had been building a file too. Hers just happened to be about what I could do. In February, I took 4 steps with no hands. 4. Connie caught me on the 5th. Fall toward me, she said. I've caught bigger. I laughed. Then I cried, for the first time since the crash. Not because it hurt, because for the first time, my body had kept a promise. The person I wanted to call was 2 years old, and his grandmother was screening my calls. He's napping, sweetheart, Paulette would say. He's at a birthday party. He gets upset after the phone. It confuses him. 2 minutes of my son's breathing every few days. I wrote down every call in the folder. Date, time, length. I did not know yet what it would be evidence of. I only knew that paper holds still. In April, a woman from the caregiver support office knocked on my door with a clipboard. Yvonne Pryor. Kind face, tired eyes, a job made entirely of forms. Just a routine check, Mrs. Calloway. Any changes in your home care situation? Your caregiver of record files his monthly logs on time, so this is mostly a formality. My what? Your caregiver of record. She checked the clipboard. Ross Calloway. Spouse. Certified full-time in January. He submits care logs every month. Daily assistance with mobility, meals, transportation, medication management. The room went very quiet, the kind of quiet inside a helicopter when the engine stops. And that certification pays him, I said. The stipend, yes, $2,800 a month. She turned the clipboard around so I could see the top log. His handwriting. My name. A Tuesday in February. Prepared 3 meals. Assisted with bathing and mobility. Transported to appointments. On that particular Tuesday in February, I had been in an operating room from 7 in the morning until noon. The United States government had paid my husband $2,800 that month to describe a woman who did not exist. 2 visits. I had counted them myself. 19th of October, Christmas Eve. 2 visits, and outside that door, the man was on file with the United States government as the hands that fed me. I smiled at Yvonne Pryor. I thanked her for her diligence. I asked very politely for copies of everything. Then I sat alone with the folder in my lap and I understood, fully, the size of the thing I was in. He was being paid to hold my hand. I was learning to walk alone. On the 12th of September, 2025, I walked out of the Army Medical Center on a cane, 11 months and 1 day after the crash. Colonel Osei shook my hand at the door. Slow is smooth, Chief. Smooth is fast. You should put that on a poster, sir. I stole it off one. Nobody else came to pick me up. I took a rideshare to an apartment I had rented over the phone, 8 minutes from post, with a 2nd bedroom I furnished for a boy I was not allowed to bring home. 7 days later, Ross filed for sole custody. The papers said I was a stranger to my son. The papers said I was medically unfit. The papers arrived 1 week after I could walk. He had been waiting for me at the finish line with a lawsuit. Dana Feldman's office was above a bakery downtown. 47 years old, reading glasses on a chain, a handshake like a door closing. She read the whole file before she said a word to me. I liked her immediately. He built his case on paper, she finally said. Papers where he loses. Meaning? Meaning we don't get angry, Chief Calloway. We get certified copies. She slid a yellow legal pad across the desk. Write down everything you remember with a date on it. Visits, calls, who said what. Don't editorialize. If it isn't a fact, it doesn't go on the pad. You'd have liked my flight instructor, Bus, I said. I bill more, said Dana Feldman. The temporary order kept Eli where he was. Courts protect routine, Dana explained, even a routine built on a lie. I got Saturdays, supervised, at a family visitation center with toys that smelled like disinfectant. The first Saturday, Eli hid behind the caseworker's leg. 3 years old by then. He did not remember me. I sat down on the floor, cross-legged, the way you sit when your pelvis is held together with titanium, and I folded a paper airplane and flew it to him. He laughed. It sounded exactly like the sound I fought the pedals for, all the way down. By the 3rd Saturday, he was flying airplanes back. By the 5th, he ran to the door when I came in, and I knelt down and took it. 38 pounds of boy at 9 miles an hour, dead center. Are you the helicopter lady? He asked me once, nose to nose. Grandma says you fly helicopters. I'm the helicopter lady. And buddy, I'm your mom. I know that, he said, insulted, and went back to the airplanes. Kids keep the important files in a safe place. Everything else is paperwork. At night, I filled the folder. Dana subpoenaed the rehab center's visitor badge log. She demanded the audit trail on my medical records portal. She requested every caregiver log Ross had signed. Requests are quiet things. Nobody watches you file them. I had rebuilt a pelvis. I could rebuild a record. The badge log came back first. Every visitor to the rehabilitation wing signs in electronically. Date, time, badge number. Dana laid the printout on her conference table and put 2 fingers on it, like it might fly away. Ross Calloway. October 19th, 2024, 41 minutes. December 24th, 2024, 19 minutes. 2 visits, Dana said. In 11 months. His logs say daily care. His logs say daily care, she agreed, and she smiled at the paper the way I imagine wolves smile. That same week, a friend from my old unit sent me a link with no comment attached. Ross's public page. A photo from the county fair. My son on his shoulders. Matching baseball caps. The caption said, "Doing it all on my own this year. 1,200 likes. Strangers calling him a hero in the comments." I looked at it for exactly 1 minute. Then I closed the app and printed the screenshot for the folder. Dana had a house rule, and by then it was mine too. We do not post. We print. The portal audit came back in February. 41 logins to my patient records from Ross's phone. Password I had given him years earlier, back when we were the kind of married where you share passwords. He had downloaded my chart summaries 6 times. The last download was 3 days before his custody filing. Guarded prognosis for independent ambulation. He had not stolen my words. He had stolen my doctor's words. From a season when the words were still true, and he was building a version of me out of them that he needed the court to believe. Discovery gave us his phone records, too. One text stopped me cold. Ross to his mother, September of 2025. Keep Eli through the hearing. Judges leave kids where they are. I read it 4 times. Paulette was not the general in this war. She was terrain. He had used his own mother's kindness as a piece on the board, the same way he had used my broken hips. In March, he came to my apartment. 10 at night, no warning. My doorbell camera got all of it. "This is getting expensive, Jen. Sign the agreement every other weekend. That's the best you're going to do." He leaned into the lens light without knowing it. "Look at yourself. You're half a mother now. Half a wife was bad enough." I did not open the door all the way. I stood in the gap, cane and all, and I said, "Good night, Ross." He stood there another 10 seconds, looking at a woman standing in a doorway she paid for, holding a cane he had told a court she could not live without. For 1 second, something in his face understood that the story was not going to hold. Then it was gone, and so was he. The camera got that too. Dana played it back the next morning, twice. "He thought paper was his weapon," she said. "He never checked whose fingerprints were on it." The hearing began on the 14th of April, 2026. You already know how the morning went. The photographs, the mailbox, the stranger with a cane. What I have not told you is what happened that first afternoon before the doors ever opened. The morning had belonged to Ross. His lawyer walked him through it like a dance they had rehearsed. "Who takes Eli to preschool, Mr. Calloway?" "I do." "Who knows his bedtime, his allergies, his shoe size?" "I do." Though on the allergies, Ross glanced down at his notes first. A small thing. Judges are in the small things business. I watched Judge Simmons write, then the photographs again, blown up on a screen this time, and the word unfit used 4 times in a single hour. I kept my hands folded and my eyes level and let the army hold my spine up for me. In the afternoon, it was our turn. Connie Delgado took the stand in a blazer she clearly hated, and she testified the way she coached. Short words, no padding. When Chief Calloway arrived on my unit, she could not sit upright without assistance. When she left my unit, she could run. Dana asked about the functional capacity evaluation. "Cleared for full duty in March," Connie said. "I'd know. I signed it." "And the 2-mile run?" "April 2nd, 16 minutes and 40 seconds. Connie glanced at Ross's table. "I've cleared infantry kids with slower cards." Then the silver-haired lawyer made a mistake. He crossed me. "Mrs. Calloway, be honest with the court. Could you chase a running 4-year-old? Could you even lift him?" "In March, I carried a 35-pound pack 12 miles, I said. "My son weighs 38 pounds, so I'd like the extra 3. But yes." Somebody in the gallery laughed and swallowed it. The judge did not laugh, but she wrote something down. and the lawyer looked at his legal pad like it had betrayed him. The mailbox line didn't come back out of his mouth that day. Dana put me on last. She asked one question we had never rehearsed. "Chief Calloway, why does the Army let you fly a 9-ton aircraft?" "Because I passed every test they have," I said. "Vision, reflexes, judgment, strength. Twice a year, every year. There's no test for being a mother, ma'am. But if there were, I'd pass it. I've been studying my whole life." The courtroom went quiet for a second. The good kind of quiet. That evening, Dana took a phone call in the courthouse parking lot. She listened for a long time, then she looked at me across the roof of her car. "There's a witness who wants a subpoena." "Wants one?" "Asked for one. Says he won't testify without it. Wants everything on the record. Clean." "Who?" "You know him." She would not say more. Attorneys ration hope the way pilots ration fuel. I did not sleep much that night. At 2 a.m, I ironed my uniform twice and thought about rounds at 6:15 and weather reports and life rafts built out of sentences. Day 2 started with the sound of doors. At 9:41, on the morning of April 15th, the rear doors of the courtroom opened and Colonel Warren Osee walked in wearing the Army service uniform, 4 rows of ribbons, and the expression of a man arriving at his own operating room. He carried one folder. I had seen him in scrubs. I had seen him in a white coat at 6:15 in the morning, reading my numbers like weather. I had never seen him like this. Neither had that courtroom, and courtrooms think they have seen everything. Ross's lawyer stopped mid-sentence. He did not know who this was, but you did not need a program to read the room. The bailiff came to something near attention. The judge, Judge Simmons, took off her glasses. "Your Honor," Dana said, "the respondent calls Colonel Warren Osee, United States Army." Sworn in, he sat like the chair had been issued to him. "Colonel, what is your role?" "Chief of Orthopedic Surgery at the Army Medical Center. I have been Chief Warrant Officer Calloway's surgeon since October of 2024. I performed 5 operations on her. I supervised her rehabilitation. I signed her return to full duty. In your medical opinion, is there any physical barrier to her caring for a 4-year-old child?" "None. She is in better condition than most soldiers I clear." Dana let that sit. Then she asked the question we had rehearsed exactly once, because once was enough. "Colonel, have you had any contact with the petitioner, Ross Calloway?" The colonel opened his folder. He did not hurry. 6 days ago, I received an email from the petitioner at my hospital address. I reported it to my chain of command and to hospital counsel the same morning, and I asked to be placed under subpoena. I want to read it exactly. "Objection," the silver-haired lawyer said. But there was no strength in it. Judge Simmons overruled him without looking up. The colonel read, "All you have to do is keep the prognosis where it was last fall. Tell the court she may never live independently again. You saw her at her worst, so it isn't even really lying. It helps the custody side of things. I will take care of you when this settles." He closed the folder. "Colonel, who else has seen this email?" Dana asked. "My commanding officer, hospital counsel, and the inspector general's office, as of last Tuesday. I made copies before I made phone calls. I am a careful man. Ask my patients." "He asked me to lie," Colonel Osee said. "I rebuild soldiers, Your Honor. I do not rebuild facts." The courtroom did not gasp. It did something worse. It went completely, perfectly silent, and in that silence, everyone slowly turned toward my husband, who was studying his hands. In the second row, for the first time in 2 days, Paulette used the tissue. The silver-haired lawyer tried anyway. It was his job, and to his credit, his voice barely shook. "Colonel, you and the respondent are clearly close. 5 operations. Isn't your testimony just loyalty in a uniform?" "Counselor, I have performed over 2,000 operations on soldiers. I could not tell you the custody arrangements of any of them. I recall this one because the petitioner put his request in writing and sent it to a government email address." The colonel tapped the folder once. "Loyalty is an opinion. This is evidence. No further questions." There was a recess after that. Through the conference room window, I watched Ross and his lawyer in the hallway, and for the first time in 2 years, Ross was the one being handed papers he did not want to read. It was not over. Before the lunch recess, Dana entered one more exhibit, the doorbell footage. The courtroom watched my husband lean into the porch light and tell a woman with a cane that she was half a mother. The audio was very clear. Doorbell cameras are built for porches, and porches are where people say the quiet parts. Judge Simmons watched it twice. The second time, she watched Ross instead of the screen. Yvonne Pryor testified after lunch, clipboard and all. 16 monthly care logs signed under penalty of perjury, daily mobility assistance, daily meal preparation, daily transportation, $44,800 paid to a man the badge log placed in the building twice. 2 visits, Dana repeated, holding the printout. 60 minutes total. Does 60 minutes of visiting divide into 16 months of daily care? No, ma'am, said Yvonne Pryor. It does not. Ross's lawyer did not cross-examine her. There are hills no one will die on for any retainer. During the afternoon recess, the silver-haired lawyer approached Dana in the hallway with a settlement offer. Joint custody, no repayment, everyone signs a confidentiality agreement and goes home quietly. Dana let him finish. Then she said, loud enough for the benches, my client spent 11 months learning to walk. She can stand for one more verdict. Then Judge Simmons did the thing I will remember when I'm 90. She picked up the discovery exhibit with my husband's text message on it, and she read it out loud, slowly, in a courtroom that had gone still as a chapel. Keep Eli through the hearing. Judges leave kids where they are. She set it down and looked at Ross over her glasses. Not this judge, Mr. Calloway. The final order came down on the 4th of May. Primary residential custody to me. Supervised visitation for Ross, with a review in 1 year, contingent on completing a parenting course and repaying $44,800 to the caregiver program. The false certifications and the records access were referred to the state's attorney. What happens there is out of my hands, and I have made my peace with that. Judge Simmons said one more thing before she rose that day in April. She looked at Ross for a long moment, and when she finally spoke, her voice was not angry. It was worse than angry. It was tired. Mr. Calloway, this court sees parents at their worst. Illness, addiction, poverty. Most of them are fighting something bigger than themselves. You had a healthy son, a recovering wife, and a choice. You are the only person in this entire file who was never injured. You were only ever inconvenienced. I have heard artillery. I have never heard anything land like that sentence. In the hallway afterward, Paulette stood apart from her son for the first time. She looked at me across the marble like someone waking up in an unfamiliar house. I did not go to her. It was not the day for it. But I did not look away either, and I think we both understood that a door had been left unlocked. On the courthouse steps, Dana finally exhaled. You could smile, you know. We won. This was never about winning, I said. It was about taking my son home. That afternoon, the sweetest sound I have ever heard was not a verdict. It was a booster seat clicking into the back of my car. 3 weeks later, Paulette stood on my porch holding a casserole dish like a white flag. He told me you signed Eli away, she said. That you chose the army over him. I believed it because it was easier than believing my son would lie to me. Her hands shook on the dish. I am so ashamed. I looked at her for a long moment. Lavender and worry. Terrain, not the general. The woman who had kept my son fed and warm and loved while the two of us were used against each other. Sundays, I said. My table. You come to us. That's more than I deserve. You'll always be his grandmother, Paulette. That was never on trial. She cried on my porch, and this time I let her do it without fixing it. The first Sunday dinner was quiet. Pot roast, apple juice, and a wine glass for Eli, a grandmother who kept folding and refolding her napkin. Halfway through, Eli announced to the table that his mom flies helicopters and his grandma makes the best cookies in Tennessee, and that was that. 4-year-olds are better diplomats than the rest of us. They refuse to pretend the war matters more than the dinner. She does the dishes every Sunday now. I let her. Some apologies are spoken once and then washed, plate by plate, for years. Ross never apologized. He signed the repayment schedule. He comes to the visitation center twice a month, and in June, he left 40 minutes into a 2-hour visit because Eli wanted to play airplanes instead of watching him check his phone. The caseworker's report noted that Eli did not cry when his father left early. I read that line more times than I should have. Children keep score differently than courts do. More accurately, I think. For a while, I waited for the phone call, the letter, the porch. Then one night, watching my son sleep, I stopped. I stopped waiting for words he did not have. That is not forgiveness exactly. It is lighter than what it replaced. Some nights, that is enough. On the 3rd of June, 2026, I passed my flight physical. Colonel Osi signed the last line, handed me the form, and said, "Try to stay out of my building, Chief." "No promises, sir. The coffee's good." 2 weeks later, I walked across the flight line at Fort Campbell with my helmet under my arm. The morning smelled like jet fuel and cut grass. My hands did the walk around from memory. Fuel caps, rotor blades, pitot tube. Somewhere around the tail rotor, I stopped and stood a second and gave it a small nod. "We're square," I told it. It had cost me a year and paid me back, in one strange currency, everything worth keeping. There is a mailbox at the end of my street now, a dented aluminum one on a cedar post, half a mile from the house if you take the long way around the pond, which I do every Saturday morning, running, with a 38-pound boy on my shoulders demanding more speed. I think about that courtroom sentence exactly once a week at the mailbox. Then I turn around and I run home. At the fence, a 61-year-old woman in a sun hat held up a 4-year-old boy who was waving both arms like he was bringing me in to land. "Watch this, buddy," I whispered. The aircraft lifted, and the ground let go of me gently the way it does. The tower cleared me by a call sign I had not heard in 20 months, and my hands remembered everything my legs had spent a year relearning. Below me, the fence line slid past. A sun hat, 2 small arms still waving. I dipped the nose, just barely, the aviation version of a wink, and a boy who will never remember the year I could not stand watched his mother own the sky. 11 months learning to walk so I could get back to the one place where nobody walks at all. Eli tells everyone at his preschool that his mom flies helicopters. He does not remember the year I could not stand up. Someday I will tell him. Not the bitterness, just the truth, and the people who carried it into that courtroom for me. A therapist who wrote down every step, a coordinator who turned a clipboard around, a lawyer above a bakery, a surgeon who kept an email. None of them had to. All of them did. People ask me sometimes, careful people, kind people, whether I hate him. I tell them the truth. Hate is cargo. I fly for a living. I know exactly what extra weight costs, and I know what happens to an aircraft that refuses to drop it. If my story has taught you anything, let it be this. Strength is not never falling. Strength is who you become while you are learning to stand. And grace is what you do with the ground once you are back on it. The people who counted you out were never holding the pen. If this story found you on a hard day, share it with someone who is learning to stand up too. They should not have to do it alone. And tell me in the comments about the moment somebody stood up for you when you could not stand for yourself. I read every single one, and those stories matter more than mine. If you want more stories about courage, justice, and hope, subscribe and stay close. There is always another one worth telling. Thank you for spending this time with me. Truly, the end.